In this video, we're going to look at how we can use VLOOKUP to match data exactly, and we're also going to take a peek at the brand new XLOOKUP function. So coming back to the reconciliation, Zara has identified that in our NCI report, there are 84 invoices, whereas if we check our supplier statement, there are actually 85. So we know there's at least one record in the supplier statement that is not in the MC report. What we need to do is find out which one, and probably the easiest way to do that is using a VLOOKUP. Now, just coming back to our MC report for a moment, when we do the lookup, we're going to use the whole table. We're going to match the customer reference to our payment reference, which is in the first column, and we're going to get back the amount, because as well as identifying which record is missing, we're also going to double check that all the amounts match. Now, to save us counting later on, the amount happens to be the 10th column in this dataset. That is something you will need to check before doing your VLOOKUP. So back in our supplier statement, we're going to click in U2 and type equals VL and tab. Our lookup value, the thing we're going to match, is our customer reference, and we're going to match that into our table MC and a comma. Our column index, the column we want to get the value back from, is in the 10th position in that table. And now the most important thing for the exact match, we have to specify it's an exact match. Now it's strange, we choose false. What that means is it's not a range lookup. So you can either do that, or if you get tired of doing that, you can just put a 0. They work the same in VLOOKUP. And when we press enter, we can straight away see that the first record doesn't have a match. That NA is not really an error, it is just telling us that the VLOOKUP couldn't find a match. Now on closer inspection, you'll see that this invoice was paid in March, and we're only trying to process invoices that were paid in April, so that shouldn't even be on the list. We've just identified and solved another part of the problem. What we do want to double check though is that all of these amounts actually match. And the easiest way to do that is to just add a little bit to our calculation. So I'm going to double click into U2, click after the equals, and we'll take the amount in our supplier statement and subtract the amount in our MC report. And you can see most of them are 0, which is what we would expect, but we do have one anomaly, which is going to need a little more investigation. Before we get into that though, with a recon, it's always a good idea to match both ways, because there could be information in the MC report that's not in the supplier statement. So we could do another VLOOKUP, but we would need to create a named range or something, because you'll notice the customer reference is not in the first column in this dataset. VLOOKUP also has a few other limitations, and one function that can help us get around these limitations is the XLOOKUP function, and that's what we're going to look at next. Now, the XLOOKUP doesn't look up entire tables, it just works with individual columns or rows. So it's easy if you name them first. You'll see we have already named our customer reference, but we haven't named our amount column. So remember, we're going to come into our table, click once at the top of the column, click a second time to include the headings, and then to create our named range using Create from Selection, we're going to press Ctrl-Shift-F3 and enter. Okay, both our columns named. Let's come into our invoice report, and we're going to click into Q5. And we're going to type equals XL for XLOOKUP and tab. Now the XLOOKUP does not have to work vertically, it can work horizontally or vertically, so already an advantage. The lookup value is exactly the same. We're going to click on our payment reference and type a comma. But now the lookup array is a single row or column, so we're going to match that payment reference into our customer reference and comma. The return array, we don't need to specify the column number within a block of data. We can just refer to the array directly. So that's actually a little easier. and a lot more flexible. And our return array in this case is our amount. And comma. The XLOOKUP also gives us a few other options. So if it doesn't find a match, rather than bringing back an NA, we can specify what value we'd like to get back. And actually, we'd prefer to get a 0. So I'm going to type a 0 and then comma. As well as specifying exact match, you can specify whether it brings back the next smaller, the next larger, or you can even use a wildcard character, like an asterisk, to get back something similar. Well, we want an exact match here, so I'm just going to type 0. And then there's one more optional argument. You can actually specify your search order. And well, we're happy with first to last, so I'm going to pop a 1 in there, close my brackets, and press enter. And you can see the XLOOKUP has done the job, same job as the VLOOKUP, but it doesn't matter which sequence the columns are in, and if they actually move, as long as you've named them, you're not going to have a problem. So actually maybe a little more intuitive and definitely a lot more robust. Now let's make the same change to this calculation as we did previously. So I'm going to double click into Q5 and I'm just going to take the amount from this sheet and subtract the 1 from the supply statement. And again, we have one anomaly. Now, if you don't have the newest version of XLOOKUP, you might not have been able to do that, but it's good to see how it works because hopefully you'll get that function really soon. Next video, we're going to look at an even more powerful lookup function that's available to everybody. So don't worry if you don't have the XLOOKUP at this stage.